Any other topics we can think of, lads?
Is there anything in the news? But I don't know. I don't know if I want to get into anything.
Yeah.
Well,
Free
what
Palestine. Free
Israel,
Palestine.
Palestine, yeah.
it is actually funny to me. I mean, like I was thinking, should I do a video on Palestine? But it's like, what what can I say other than
Yeah.
what I've already? I mean, there's literally nothing more to say. I will say that I'm just kind of surprised at the extent to which, so far, like all the kind of discussion surrounding like terrorism, what terrorism is, it has not actually changed really since like 2000, right? It's still the same, right? It's still I
Yeah.
I
mean,
agree. I agree. It's like it's not evolved at all. The conversation about
yeah.
terror, like, and people. I think it's disgusting how, like, just now I saw Rishi Sunak like talk about, like, how Israel has the right to defend herself. What a crock of shit.
Yeah, those
He's
are all. That's the thing. Those are all the statements. Every American official, every EU official, they're releasing This is the thing. Like recently, Blinken got in trouble for tweeting something about, this massacre during the Holocaust, and he was talking about like buried history, right? He was complaining about how Soviets buried history, and at the same time, you look at his last 10 tweets are all about I am, with X, Y, and Z in order to stop this terrorism from Hamas against Israel. And it's like, isn't that buried history? I mean, like, it didn't spring up out of nowhere. What is going on, do you think, in the almost
fucking
literally
bullshit.
almost a
So,
century?
so, bullshit. So the Ukraine are freedom fighters, but Hamas are, extremists or whatever. And listen, I'm no lover of like Hamas, or like, I'm a bit of an Islamophobe. I make no apologies about it. But like, I
Mm-hmm.
know an ethno when I see one, and I know, like, I mean, it's an apartheid. Do you know what they call like the non-Arab zones in like Israel? Call them sterilized zones, for
Yeah.
God's sake, or whatever the Yiddish equivalent is. It's fucking sickening. Like, the hypocrisy. Just because one nation is white and the other isn't, it's like, we've. But then, I mean, that's generally like the problem now with our geopolitics. Like, we still
Yeah, I
haven't
mean, it's
learned
like
lessons of
if Palestine was important to our geopolitics, trust me, it would be like Jews that would be in the Palestinian situation. If Ukraine is important to our geopolitics, we will spend, doesn't matter how much. I mean, this is the problem with being in a proxy war, right? People are like, if they've already given up the question of whether or not it's a proxy war, and they say, okay, fine, it is. They say, so what? But the so what is if it's a geopolitical proxy, whatever that main power wants is it's their interest, not yours, right? You will be sacrificed in some way along the way, right? I mean, they
yeah.
they promised like years ago, they promised to Ukraine like, oh no, we're gonna arm you even if Russia invades, you're gonna take back Crimea, you're gonna take back the Donbass. And Ukraine has lost more land, right? It's probably on track to losing like 40% of its land. And it's like, like this, and you didn't want to put in peace treaties at the time because you thought like you could it's just you're leading people down a certain path, like with everything like Palestine, like people are led down a very kind of narrow path of possible behaviors. And when
Yeah.
these behaviors like inevitably pop off, whether it's terrorism or whether it's Putin invading, you lead people down a very narrow set of possible outcomes, and they start popping off, and you start to moralize like in that moment. That is such fucking bullshit to me. You have to start taking responsibility for all the preceding events that lead to some final escalation. You're gonna have to be serious about it.
Mm. Slightly closer to home, or at least to your home, I see that your Republicans have ousted their Speaker of the House, which
Yeah.
is seems a bit of a farce. I mean, the first time in history that they've done that. Would that be right?
That is the first time. I remember being surprised to learn that it was the first time. I feel like it would be like a thing that is common, but I guess it's not common at all.
In Britain, where the Conservatives are almost famous for
Yeah,
finding their
yeah, yeah.
new.
You could have a new government. You could have a government that's so popular, come into power suddenly, like, yeah, riding a wave of enthusiasm. Four months later, you're resigning, and it's the
Yeah.
lowest polls ever. Like what the that in America we have we pick sides so easily that you're gonna get away with anything, no
I
matter what
noticed
you
that
do.
this Ukraine thing has been a point of contention, though, between sort of the far right version, the far right wing of the Republican
Hmm.
Party, and the more, shall we say, moderate
Yeah. The rhinos,
Republicans.
right?
Like,
Hmm. Yeah, although
Like, the
it's
Republicans are
yeah,
controlling. Yeah.
yeah, it's probably, I mean, it's probably going to spread just only simply for the fact that, I mean, like, look, if we're saying, okay, if this is a proxy war, one of the problems is you're now the whims of like the power behind you, and in America right now, it's like over 50% Americans don't want more Ukraine funding. I get the feeling like, oh, this is like the perfect opportunity to start like throwing Ukraine under the fucking bus. I mean, it happened twice already. Once it happened when we said, get rid of your nukes and we'll protect you. And it's like, what do you mean you'll protect? How? It's not a NATO country. If Russia invades, you're going to protect Ukraine. You won't do that. So that's the first like weird thing that was done. Then, after 2014, it's do this and do that. If Russia invades, you're going to win back more land. So, and this is like the third possibility. If like Biden decides that Ukraine is liability in 2024, he's going to stop talking about it. Right. That's just how it is. And for Republicans, it's not like they have like a principled, stance here. It's just like that this is the Democrat war. So we're going to be against it. If it was if Trump was in power, because Trump could have easily, been in office when Putin invaded, because they were both doing the same thing, which is arming Ukraine, which is what triggered Russia. So it could have happened in either situation, and it would have been the Trump war, and Democrats would have been like taking the opposite tack. Like it's all it's such bullshit when you look at what they're doing. Like
the Afghan exit. Trump took the credit for the exit of the troops from Afghanistan, but
yeah.
then the liberals got mad at, even though it wasn't. But what else? There was another recent thing where Zelensky went to the Canadian.
Canada.
Oh yeah,
and
back to back.
Did you see that? Where they reported the Nazi jab.
Two. There was one. There was the Hunka, and then or Unka. I don't know how to pronounce it. But then there was another guy a week later.
Another one
from the same Nazi unit. So they were both applauded a week apart. And I mean, this is one of the things I'm guessing, because it's like, on some level, like people complain about Russian or Chinese propaganda, but sometimes it does write itself. Yeah. What are the chances that the two Ukrainian war heroes that you honored back to back a week apart happen to be Nazis? Well, maybe they're going to start believing like the more extreme forms of Russian propaganda about that.
So fucking stupid. Like the Speaker of the House saying like, yeah, he was fighting the
Russians.
The Russians.
Yeah, they like that's the thing. They didn't stop to think.
Fighting the allies.
They didn't stop to think what it meant. It's like shouldn't you sort of like stop the festivities then and at least be like, wait, hold on a second, what are we doing? Like it's very weird. Somebody saw the speeches too. Like somebody saw the comments. Somebody wrote the comments down. Somebody edited the comment, and nobody was like, "Well, what are people going to think about this?" Like really.
That Trudeau, he's just a pretty boy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, he seems to have bit more substance than Rishi Sunak, because like, oh my god, I can't stand Rishi Sunak. I don't know whether news of the Conservative Party conference has come your way over there, but it's been their annual conference in Manchester, and it's just been a kind of atrocity exhibition, really. Like just the most. They're going for the culture war stuff, as you can tell. Basically trying to scapegoat anybody and anybody they can. Migrants, transgender people, woke, the wokerati, what have you, while also axing all the long-term sort of cross-party sort of infrastructure plans that were promised 10 years ago or more. So like there are people campaigning under these banners of big changes for long-term decisions for the future, while literally making the most short-termist decisions possible, getting rid of any net zero promises, blah, blah, blah.